Hi, my name is Nav. This research is about people with complex communication needs and alternative and augmentative communication, AAC. You might be wondering, what's AAC? AAC refers to any tool or strategy, often used by people who are not able to use their natural speech or write with pen and paper, aimed at improving their social participation. Research shows that AAC can improve communication and participation in education, employment, and the community. However, while beneficial, it continues to be underutilized. Our research team was wondering if people with communication disabilities across Canada in different provinces and territories have access to these systems, if AAC systems are meeting their needs, if the services and systems are available and accessible, and if they have support to use AAC in their daily life. Our vision is to impact and improve the use of AAC and inform standards so that AAC guidelines for accessibility can be developed. Researchers from Queen's University partnered with the Canadian chapter of the International Society for Augmentative and Alternative Communication and the Canadian Accessibility Network. These partnerships enabled inclusion of people with disabilities, co-design of the research, and dissemination of the findings. People with disabilities and expert clinicians were involved as expert advisors and took an active role in making decisions to guide the project. Our team consisted of members with different academic and professional backgrounds, which were engineering, speech-language pathology, occupational therapy, including students and people with lived experience with AAC. Multiple studies were completed as part of this national project. Participants were from across Canada and involved people who use AAC, their caregivers, service providers, and manufacturers. We asked participants about design, access to, and use of AAC. We have learned that there are many supportive and inhibiting factors. For example, services supportive factors included adequate funding for communication aids and services, access to a range of technology for trial and assessment, interdisciplinary collaborative service delivery including family and other ongoing professional support. There is a need for individualized AAC systems that work across a range of environments and situations. In contrast, lacking, inadequate, or inconsistent support in these areas can challenge the use of communication aids. These barriers inhibit participation in school and employment. Barriers were also misconceptions held by other people or general lack of acceptance of AAC as a communication method. Such misconceptions led to exclusion. We found a great variability among services across Canada with respect to service delivery, professional resources, and access to funding. However, the effect of these differences is unknown. We have learned from participants that the key measure of success with AAC is not just communication, but also social belonging and pursuit of life goals. From the findings from this research, we developed recommendations in 3 key areas for improving access to and effective use of AAC. The first area is technology design and use. Systems should be designed to be user-friendly and able to be used universally across a range of environments. There is need for flexibility in software applications to allow for easy modifications. The second area is services, including access to services. For example, eligibility criteria for AAC services and funding for devices needs to be expanded, non-restrictive and more consistent across Canada. To provide quality and equitable services, there is need for the development and use of shared practice guidelines. Increased funding is needed, not only for AAC systems but also for loan, trial devices, and adequate training and education for the person who uses AAC and services providers to enhance their skills and knowledge. A collaborative interdisciplinary approach should be used in assessment and recommendation, including professionals, the person who uses AAC, and key communication partners. The third key area is participating in life, that includes healthcare, education, and employment. Staff training on AAC is needed in education and healthcare environments. Early intervention with the use of AAC systems is important to learning. More supports are required for youth who use AAC to help prepare them for the transition to adulthood, including participation in post-secondary school and employment. Employers should have funding support to provide training and workplace accommodations for potential employees who use AAC. Canadian Public Services should be also required to report on efforts to include people who use AAC in employment. In conclusion, because communication is a human right, there is a need to focus on making communication devices and services accessible and affordable, so people who rely on alternative ways to communicate can belong and participate in Canadian society.